and we addressed the Von Miller trade, and now, unfortunately, we got to address one of the sad ones. I mentioned earlier, Jameis Winston. It looks like out for the season, right? Torn ACL and injured his MCL as well. Had led the Saints to a 4-2 record and was playing, he wasn't lights out. He wasn't on his way to the Pro Bowl, but he was playing, he was leading them to wins. He was winning games. And he had 14 touchdowns, Rob, and 3 interceptions. So he was being, it's the guy who's known for throwing interceptions, and he was protecting the ball. But there was another injury that I'd say was even more significant. That's not to downplay Jameis's, but I don't think anybody thought, even their defense is tremendous, but they weren't what people would call a Super Bowl contender in the NFC. I did pick them to make the playoffs. I think they could have done that and still may, but I would have been shocked if they'd got to the Super Bowl. We go to this injury, Derrick Henry. Foot surgery in the morning, and he's out indefinitely, so we're going to take that right now at least to mean the rest of the season.
I don't see him coming back.
Right.
I just don't. I mean, I know, medicine today, Chris, and people get back faster, but LeVar talked about it. Like, there's pressure you have to put down on that. It's not like
guy his size.
Yeah, that's his whole thing. Being explosive. And now if you don't have the explosiveness as a big guy like that, I think more people can get to you. More people can bring you down. I think that takes away.
Wait till you get fully healthy. Don't rush yourself back. Yeah. Because if you come back early, Rob, okay, I can grit through it, but I'm not quite the same. You'll probably never be the same because you're going to take more hits. You're going to be getting crushed, and then you'll never get back. I'm with you, Rob. Let it heal. Give yourself a year, and basically you'd have a year and a half, right? And get yourself right, or not a year and a half, but you'd have maybe 10 months or whatever, however long they say it's going to take.
But that's what you probably
if you wait till next season, right? And then hopefully next year you can come back as the Derrick Henry that everybody was being wowed by over these last couple of years. The thing is, Rob, I do think now. The Titans weren't the favorite in the AFC, at least as far as I'm concerned. They had some great wins, but I do think they were a legitimate contender. I mean, right now you got Baltimore, you've got Buffalo. You got Bengals. Obviously, got their hats handed to them by the Jets.
That was a major step back. Would you agree with that?
I think you can look at it a few ways. I think it'll remain to be seen. But what I'd say is this, Rob. I think that they're a young team from the coach on down that didn't know how to handle prosperity. Maybe they got the big head. Maybe they felt like we've arrived and the Jets aren't any good, especially with a backup quarterback. They're not any good with their starter. They certainly no good with a backup. And they got caught off guard and couldn't turn it on. So I think that's very possible. That's kind of how I looked at it. I don't think they're not a legit team, but we'll see. I mean, maybe they fall off from here, and then that'll tell us what they aren't.
Yeah, that just was not what I was expecting, and not even from the gambling aspect. I'm just talking about in general. That game was in Cincinnati.
I don't think
you know what I
anybody
mean? Like
expected
that.
Right.
You go on the road, Chris, anything can happen in the NFL. If you're going to be a good team, they come in. The Bengals haven't won enough to overlook the Jets. They just haven't.
No, I agree. But they're young. They may not understand that, And everybody's kind of had, heck, look at the Ravens at home against the Bengals. And they got destroyed. So it happens. I'm not ready to write off the Bengals because of that. My point is the AFC's open. I think there's a handful of really good teams, and pick who you want. But they're all going to battle for it. And that's, Kansas City, I'm not counting out yet. Well, if they lose tonight, maybe I will. But right now, I think they still can get themselves righted. And my point is, Rob, that Tennessee was a team in that mix. They have a unique style for today's game. It was all based around Derrick Henry. And Tannehill was solid for a manager and could do a little more than the game manager. But now, Rob, they may still make the playoffs because they're 6-2. They only have to go 3-6 to win 9 games, and that's very doable. right? But they're not doing anything once they get there. I'll tell you that. So this thing is significant.
Yeah, it's a blow. I mean, he's a big part of what they do and why Tannehill has been able to be who he's been.
Right.
But they're about running the football, controlling the clock. We saw it when they had their playoff run a year ago, right? I mean, was it 2 years ago when they beat the Patriots? You remember? I mean,
yep.
They were able to control the ball, Chris, and control the clock. And when you can do that, and just throw when you have to. But without him, that changes everything. And now more of the pressure is now on Tannehill to be the guy. And I'm sure, I don't know who their backup running back is, Chris. And maybe
Jeremy
he can do
McNichols.
Okay, maybe he can do a serviceable job, but he can't do, you
can't replace
what Derrick Henry, right? What Derrick Henry's done. It's not doable. And if I'm a defense, I'm not gonna play whatever my defense was for Derrick Henry. It ain't gonna be that.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
And
now
because a lot of people might say, hold up, wait a minute. Look at Dearness Johnson in Cleveland.
Who?
Yeah. I mean, who was it in Minnesota that filled in for Dalvin Cook and had a big game? Like, a lot of people, what was his name, Rob G? Alexander Madison. All right. A lot of people saying, Rob, running backs are a dime a dozen.
Oh, wait a minute. I had that before. I had some Alexander. What was it? What's his name?
Madison.
Alexander. Oh, no, that was Dolly Madison ice cream.
Funny.
Yeah, I just blew it. Dolly Madison. Yeah. Have you had Dolly Madison ice cream?
Dolly Madison, I heard of it. Aren't those like pastries?
No, ice cream.
Ice cream? I don't know if I ever had
Dolly
ice
Madison
cream.
makes ice cream.
I thought it was pastries, but whatever. It was a bad joke, whatever. You notice Craig Melvin didn't even laugh. Craig Melvin was sitting there like, please. Really?
Even Craig didn't buy into it.
But anyway, Rob, here's my point. Yes, if you've got a very good running back, a Nick Chubb who is legit, a Josh Jacobs, legit, Ezekiel Elliott, legit, but they still share time, right? You still got Kareem Hunt in Cleveland. You still got Tony Pollard in Dallas. They're sharing time. Derrick Henry is a throwback. He was Earl Campbell. He was Eric Dickerson. He was Walter Payton. They didn't share time. Give me the rock 25 to 30 times and watch me roar. That's who he was.
Is that who he was?
He won't be replaced. He won't. And let me go here, Rob, because a lot of people, and understandably so, I think it's possible. But they're looking at the wear and tear on Derrick Henry, and it's been incredible over the last few years. A couple years ago, 2019, 303 carries. Last year, 378 carries. And then this year, 219 carries, which, Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong, the most ever through 8 games in NFL history. Okay, so that's it. And I get it. I think it is a ton of wear and tear. He's obviously a big, tough guy, so his toughness can't be questioned. And I don't know what the answer to this is, Rob. But back in the day, I don't want to sound like, the old guy, whatever.
Hey, you kids, get off my lawn.
Back in the day, though, but dudes did this. Eric Dickerson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, he carried over 300 times. One time over 400. He had 7 big years. Walter Payton, Rob, 10 seasons of 300 or more carries. It was a bad team. He was on the Bears. They had no passing game. It was Walter Payton right, Walter Payton left every single Sunday. He lasted. Barry Sanders, you watched Barry, Rob. 10 years of 300 or more carries. I don't know. Did their bodies, were they more used to taking hits? And they could take, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but
why
we've seen this throughout all sports, Chris, where guys are injured more. We talk about it in the NBA, baseball. Guys don't play like they used to play every game.
Right. They can't even. Chris, they're going 5. Who was the Mets pitcher we were just talking about?
Jacob deGrom.
Jacob throwing 5 innings a game, and he
then
couldn't
we
get
talk
through
about
half the season.
Right, and we talked about, right, Dwight Gooden didn't pitch 40 years ago, Chris, but 20 years ago, he won 24
Actually,
games.
It was pretty close to 40 years ago.
Yeah, right. You're right.
Was pretty close.
But you know what I mean. But he won 24 games, Chris, and had 18 complete games.
Yes.
18 complete games, not 8.
What were
18.
humans built differently back then? I don't.
The
Rob,
athletes
they didn't
are
have
better
the
now.
nutrition.
The
They didn't
athletes
have
are
the
better.
nutrition. They didn't have the weight training. They didn't have the year-round play.
You talked
They
about
didn't have the charter flights.
They didn't have
right?
the full. Everybody's got 4 masseuses on staff.
Right.
It's totally different. But Chris, I think what's happened is the stuff that we've talked about. These guys play more in the offseason. The offseason used to be the offseason
Rest.
for your
Right.
body to
Rest.
recover.